Moving forward with the Aethos project, I am now ready to put some parts on. So these are the parts I just got from my local bike shop. I have the handles in here, some grease, anti-seize wires, and other bits and pieces. So I'm going to lay those out and go through what I'm going to do step by step. Okay, I have all my parts laid out here except for the derailleur. I'm going to pull this out. The Shimano, they list on their the pamphlets and things that comes with it that they're forward thinking and they're trying to reduce waste so they don't have any paper. So along with all their items, they don't have any paper except for this little pamphlet here. It's not a manual and it doesn't really tell me how to do anything for installation. We're going to ignore these because they don't actually tell us anything. It's good that they're trying to reduce waste. Okay, I have everything laid out here. Starting from the left, I have these extra bits I removed from the frame that I might use. And then I have the bottom bracket tool, some Loctite that I purchased. I didn't have any assembly compound, so I ordered that from Park Tool, and as well as some anti-seize compound. I don't have any of this in my shop, weirdly, so I just went ahead and got the Park Tool version as well. I'll use that for other projects too. I have a brake bleed kit, primarily because this one does not have any brake fluid in it. You can see it's just freely moving. There's a little plug in there, but there's no oil. So I'm sure this has oil in it, but I'll have to bleed it once I connect it. There's also some missing pieces. There's no olive, the little section in here that clamps on the hose when I install it. This one is installed and it is full of oil, so I can't press this. And it has a little plug here to prevent the oil from coming out. So this one is pre-bled. I can hook it up, but I'll probably bleed them both anyway with this kit. So not too worried about it. It wasn't very expensive. This is the foam that came with the frame. This is going to be for the brakes that go through the frame underneath the bottom bracket or over the bottom bracket and connects to the rear brakes. This is going to help prevent it from bouncing around. Here's the battery. This is the DN300 battery kit. I have the electric wires. I did have to return the 850 or 800 millimeter wire that I originally got because I'm not actually going to use a junction box. It's going to go straight from the battery to these, and I'm not using connections to the handles here, so the brake levers. So these are just going to be battery powered and they're going to have no connection to the battery, so I don't need extra wires or a junction box. Here's the front derailleur, and here's the bottom bracket. This is for Dura Ace. They didn't have the standard Ultegra one in stock, but I took the upgrade anyway. This is a Dura Ace level chain I just picked up. Got the charger that comes with it. Rear brake, front brake, and then the rear derailleur. I did hook these all up, charge the battery, and made sure everything works. Hot tip, when you do hook this up and you connect it to the app, if the app suggests that you have handles that are different from what you actually have, just hit accept it and hit OK. What you can do is go back in and delete the ones that it thinks you have, add these in manually. You can just scan the little QR code here through the app, and then it will find them and it'll connect pretty automatically. So that makes it a lot easier. The bike is up here on the bike stand. I'm going to be installing the cables through here and coming out here for the front derailleur. It'll pop up the seat tube where the battery is going to be stored, so I'll have to install it in there. There should be about 4 or 5 inches of wire that come up the top. According to the manual, it says use a junction box. It doesn't have any other instructions for without, so I had to pre-measure the length going through here. The E-tube has 3 ports on it, so I'll only be using 2 of them. It did also suggest that if I don't use a third port or whatever open ports there are, if I don't plug them with a dummy plug, then it won't work. That's wrong. It will work. And also the dummy plug that I found on Amazon was actually the wrong size. So there's obviously another system out there that uses a larger dummy plug. And I'll be using this piece here to cover the wire as it comes out of the to the rear derailleur here. So the diagram itself is pretty specific about where it comes out, where the wires come out. So I'll install those now and show you what that looks like. Okay, I've run the cables. Pretty simple. I put the little bung thing here. I think it's to keep water from like ingress and all that. So I have the wire sticking out here. I fed it in this way and popped it out the out here, and then fed it up through here. And under its own power, it seemed to push all the way through. So I have these wires sticking out the top. These will connect right to the battery. According to the manual, C, 2.5 millimeter Allen key at 18 foot-pounds or 2 Newton meters. So I'll go ahead and tighten that now because I don't believe I need to access that anymore unless I need to replace the cable. I'm going to skip ahead, and before I do the battery in the C-post, I'm going to look at this front brake bracket. So the one that came with the frame is this one here. It's perfectly sized for the frame. This one that came with the brakes is a little bit long. I think it'll work, but I won't be using this screw hole. I'll be using this one over here, and there's going to be a little extra on there. And I'm not crazy on weight, but it's going to be a little bit extra hanging off. So I think I'm going to remove this bracket and then put this one on. I'll use some blue Loctite on that. There is this little pin right in here that needs to be removed because all over the Shimano components there are these little pins that like security pins that if it should come loose, it won't come off because the pin's going to be in place. So these need to be removed before that a second bolt will come off. Okay, the brake is now on. There was no torque specs for the bolts going here or this way onto the frame. I looked online and did some research and found it's about 44 foot-pounds or roughly, I think it was 5 Newton meters, something like that, converted. So before I got this bolted on though, I fed this cable up and through and fished it out the top. It's very stiff, so have to be careful there. I might have to trim this at some point, but I'm not going to do it now. I don't want anything, trash or contaminants to get in there, so I'm just going to leave it as is until I get these handles on. Okay, I'm going to do this seat post battery in real time. I couldn't find any directions on it. I did look inside the box for a manual or a QR code that leads to a manual, and I couldn't find it. I tend to find that with the Shimano QR codes, they kind of go to non-pages that don't really help out. But I did find on Better Shifting, there's a guide here for Di2 compatible battery installations. So this should be a Di2 compatible seat post, and it came with a little plug here that's going to fit and hold the battery like such. Okay, this actually might be easier than I thought it was. So I thought this guide was for E-tube compatible. I think this just might be, I might just need this. So there's this rubber ring inside here that engages with this groove up here. And I think I just set it in here. So that'll prevent it from sliding out. And then I can just slide this up into here. Let's see, let's make sure that groove stays put. All right. I'm going to push it just past the tube. That way I can still grab this if I need to, but if I slam this down, it's not going to jam the battery there. It is pretty well wedged in. I don't think that's going to come out. As it slides down, the extra cable isn't going to come out here or out the back. It's going to kind of gather here at the bottom. So I need to make sure that this is, the wires are pushed out of the way before I put in the bottom bracket. If I put the bottom bracket in with the wire just kind of hanging down here, if I pull the seat post up next time for maintenance or cleaning or whatever, there's not going to be enough wire, and it's going to unplug from those wires, and I'm never going to be able to plug it back in until I disassemble this section. So I need to make sure that it's tucked up here when that bottom bracket goes in. Here's what the brake line for the rear looks like being fed through. So I started it back here. I tried to run a string line, but that didn't work out. So I just took off the whole head tube portion and guided it in by hand. So now that that's done, I can put it back on. I noticed that on here, on the wire, there's this piece that comes with the derailleur, sort of a 90-degree tool. There's a little groove in here that catches this plug. It allows it to plug in sort of neatly like this, instead of having it loop all the way around, making it more likely to catch. If there's excessive amount of wire here, I could take this off and feed a little bit back through into here, so there's less chance of it catching something, but that little tool comes with it to give it that nice 90-degree bend. I also noticed it came with this little support piece here. It's a little adhesive backed piece of metal, and according to some instructions I found, if there's a bracket for the seat, for the I guess the bracket here that sits here and puts the bracket this way, this exposes the frame on this end, and it sits there so that the screw doesn't, I think it's so the screw doesn't hit the frame or something like that. But because this plate is here, I don't believe it's necessary. The rear derailleur is also mounted now. I did have to do some research. The first way I had it was kind of angled like this, so it looked extra weird because there's like a linkage and another linkage. There's different types of derailleur mounts for different bikes: direct mount, standard mount, and I didn't know exactly what this was. The website doesn't list it. Specialized doesn't say what it is, and it was a little bit confusing, especially because this little detail, there's little lumps in here that seem to fit right with this little bump here, and that made it look extra extended and weird. But mounting it like this, the angle looks a lot better. So just looking at pictures online of the same configuration, this is how people have it set up. So I torqued this down to 70 foot-pounds, which is the minimum, or sorry, inch-pounds, which is the minimum for this bolt. But I also have the wire holder here and the little boot for water ingress. So I think this is about ready now. Obviously it's not adjusted because I don't have the chain or the wheel yet, but front derailleur is also on here. It's a little bit loose. I didn't torque it down because I don't know where it's going to sit, but it's looking good. Now I have the mineral oil, so I should be able to get the brakes set up and bleed them and get the handles installed. So I need to figure out where these handles are going to sit and how much cable I need, if I need to cut any of it. It looks like I might need to cut a few inches off each of these cables. Because the handles, this is the furthest I believe the stem is ever going to need to be, I may need to shorten it. So I think that plus the spacers here on the head tube should give me a pretty good idea. Like if I need to shorten it and I need to cut more off, you know, I'll end up with more cable, not less. So I think I'm pretty safe there. Okay, I've taped up the cables for the brakes. I put some slack in there. I wanted to, you know, I didn't want to cover directly in front of the logo. But I counted basically the amount of brake that meets this little flange bit here where it enters the handle, and then adding up this amount here is 2 centimeters. That's going to be this line, which I believe is the stop line for how far you should insert it. So I added this to this amount here. So that's going to give me this cutoff point where I taped it. I got them marked on both sides. Okay, I have a nice clean cut. Okay, so this is the this is going to be the front brake. It's not pre-bled, so it's like open, and then there was just a rubber cap on here, so there's no oil in it. It doesn't look like there's an olive, so part of the kit that I got was a single barb and a single olive, so that's going to go in here. So here is the flange nut. And then this should go on just like that. Careful not to tip my bike over. I'm going to put a touch of Loctite on the end of this after putting it on the brake tube because I don't want Loctite to get anywhere else. Just get a finger tight, push. All right. Here's the brake pads. Okay, so I bled the brakes until there was no more air coming out. I didn't actuate them though, and even with the plug in here, there's a little bit of squish. I don't know if that's expected. It does stop at some point, but I'm gonna bleed them again and actuate these this time and see if I can't knock some air loose. Okay, it's much stiffer now, so now I can go ahead and just clean up the area a little bit, make sure there's no oil sitting around. I didn't really make a mess, so just clean up the ports, put the caps back on, and then put the brakes back on. I'll probably want to cover it a little bit just to make sure that I don't get any oil from the other brakes that I'm bleeding. I'll insert this guy. Okay, on this side, I'm going to use some PTFE pipe thread sealant. This is basically what was already on here, same viscosity and everything. It was really gunky when I took it off because I wasn't able to get the olive to seat correctly on the brake line. So I took it off, cleaned it up, made sure there's no gunk down here in the threads on the handles, and I'm going to reapply this thread sealant I didn't put any on this side. I used thread locker on the nut. I'm pretty sure there's a good reason, but I'm not getting any leaking over here, so I'm just going to do a test. This will be with the thread sealant. This will be with the Loctite. So if this one fails after some amount of time before this one, then I know that thread sealant is going to be the way to go. And then I'll put some pipe dope, or whatever you want to call it. Let's get this. Okay, the olive is in there. I think the top of the olive might be slightly deformed for some reason. Yeah, the top of the olive has a sort of a bent shape on this side. So what that means is I need to order another flange nut and olive kit before I can assemble this brake. Okay, now I have the new olive, and well, I actually have new other bits too, but I just need the olive, so I'll be taking that out and installing it into the handle. Perfect. Okay, it's now time to install the bottom bracket. Now I need to make sure that there's no tubes or wires in here. I can feel the rear derailleur wire up here in the corner, which is good, and the brake tube is up here. So this area down here is clear, like I need it. I will be wearing gloves for this because it's going to be greasy. The bottom bracket parts are covered in some kind of grease. They're also there's also an application of what looks like a light blue Loctite or some kind of anti-seize. So I'm not going to need to apply anything there. This should be good enough. Although I will want to clean off some of this grease that is packed into these bearings. Okay, so these fit together. There's a little O-ring on here, no threads, and it just fits together like this. So it should keep any grease from getting into the frame. 9100, 35 to 50 Newton meters, so I'll probably aim for around 40. Now I'm ready to torque the bottom bracket. I'm aiming for around 30 foot-pounds. Why am I using foot-pounds instead of inch-pounds or Newton meters? Well, here's the bottom bracket tool. My other torque wrenches don't have an adapter for this square drive here, but I do have this torque wrench. This is meant for cars, but it does go up to 30 foot-pounds at the minimum. And now I'm ready to torque. I believe this is going to be torquing this way, so I need to set this properly. There we go. Oh, I have it switched around the wrong way. The bottom bracket is now installed. As you can see, I got my wheels. I ordered the Hunt 44 UD disc wheel set. So it should be nice and light. These are the carbon spokes. So a little bit worried about being able to replace them, but I haven't had to replace any of the spokes on my other bike, so it should be a rare occurrence anyway. Spin this way. This is a tool I already had. This is the TL-LR15 from Shimano. For all my future torque references, I printed out the Shimano dealer manual torque sheet. This is just like 12 pages of torque specs for different parts, which covers everything in the Di2 category. Okay, so the first roadblock here is going to be getting this caliper centered on the rotor here. I read that you're supposed to loosen the caliper a bit and then apply the brake so that it self-centers. And there's additional steps if I need to go further than that, but let's just hope that this works. All right, let's see. Got a little bit worse. Hear that? Silence. Somehow I got the brake calipers adjusted so they're perfect. I almost lost hope on the front caliper because no matter how I adjusted it, it was always rubbing on one side or the other. I tried the business card trick with paper, but I could barely get two pieces of paper alongside. It's very, very tight. I started to wonder if maybe the rotor was wrong for these brakes, or if something was wrong with the amount of fluid I put in, the hydraulic lines. I bled the front brake several times just to try to figure out how that was working. I think they're self-adjusting, but at one point I ended up accidentally pushing the caliper piston out of one side, and it sucked in a bunch of air. So I had to redo all that, but the rear brakes went in just fine. Very minor tweaking, and it was perfect. So that should be done. Okay, now I have the tire on. It took me a little bit. I struggled getting the air into the tire so it could seat. It kept leaking out, so I finally had to bring out the rapid inflator with the cartridges. I did not put any sealant in here because I forgot, but I'm going to add it back through the port. The core should be removable. There we go. There we go. Okay, here's the core. Should be seated now. Don't want to over tighten it. They are rubber seals. Spread out. Oh, I see. The bead is hung up on the plug. Ooh. Oh God, I hate that sound. is a light bike. Finally got the parts I need to finish this bike build, cassette and chain ring and crank arms. This is a 12-speed cassette. Perfect. I don't know what tool's supposed to fit in here with this little plastic cap, but I think scissors are gonna have to do. Let's see. Crank set 9, crank arm mounting screw, here we go. 12 to 14 Newton meters. This is a tough one. I don't know if I can get my tools to work for this. I think I'll just go as tight as I can, reasonably. Yeah, I think that's good. All right, so that's on. I tightened the cap, this cap here first, just in case it was gonna draw in a little bit extra, and then clamp this down, very similar to the steering tube. Just to take the slack out of it. But if there's some play in here, moving back and forth, I can loosen these up and then tighten this back down. I may need a special tool for this. My largest hex wrench is just a little bit too large, and the next size under that is too small. So we'll see how this goes, but I don't think this will cause a problem, but I'll address it later if I need it. These are just some temporary pedals that I had lying around, so I'll have to purchase some clipless later. I've adjusted the high and low limits on the derailleur here. After that, I took the adjustment guide here for the B screw. I believe plate on this guide here refers to this plate where basically the top of the jockey cog, and has different sizes or different widths here based on what size large sprocket you have on your cassette. I have a 34 tooth, and then adjusted out here, I made sure it kind of hit this line where I can see the teeth. I need to get this front derailleur adjusted. There's a handy little sticker guide that came with the front derailleur. It shows like a picture of the gear teeth and where it needs to be. So I left that sticker on there, and I'll be able to adjust this down until I get it about right. And then I'll need to adjust where it's sitting rotationally. Let's go over here first. No, this is not an editing mistake. I accidentally undersized my chain, so I purchased another at my local bike shop. Yeah, you live and learn. So basically I was short this much because the ends were not compatible. I was one link off for my reference link. And if I had another quick link set, I could add this in. Unfortunately, I did not. And that's it. That's the bike, all finished up, uncovered.